Welcome to the Global Discussion, a discussion with creatives, with leaders, and with thinkers. My name is Simon Hodgkins, and today I'm joined by Mack Garrison. Mack, you're very welcome to the show. Let's begin by asking you to tell our worldwide audience a little bit about Mack and Mack's company. Over to you.
I love it. Thanks so much for the intro, Simon. My name is Mack Garrison. I'm the co-founder and director of content of Dash Studio. We're a high-end animation and motion design agency that's built around connecting brands to their communities. I got into creative like a lot of folks did just because I loved it. I was always doodling, drawing. I look back at some of the illustrations I did as kids, and now, of course, it makes a lot of sense that I found a career in the creative space. But what I love about design so much is really at its core, it's problem solving. My whole life, I've kind of been the problem solver for friends or folks who are like need a shoulder to talk to. I was always there, and I just really love that aspect of what we do. So after uni and college, I moved into the professional workforce at an agency for a number of years, and very quickly I recognized two things about my industry: motion design. And for those that are asking themselves, what the heck is motion design? I like to use an umbrella term to encompass anything that happens on screen that moves. So it could be video, it could be animation, it could be some interactive. That's the umbrella that I refer to as motion design. So when I got into industry, I found that the people in the industry were just the most delightful human beings. Everyone wanted to see me succeed. Everyone wanted to help out, give some advice for this person who's just starting the career. And that was amazing. The other side of it was unfortunately a little bit more nefarious. I think creatives over the years have been overworked, overtaxed on their time and their energy. And there was a lot of late nights that I started to question, is this really what I want to be doing because it was so demanding? And so in 2015, when we started the studio, we did so because of this belief in the power of creativity and community. I wanted to bring together great teams, work with one another in a very collaborative environment to make the best work, because that is how the best work is created, in my opinion. And so I'm lucky to say that we've been doing it now for almost 10 years. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary this October, and we still feel like the sky's the limit ahead of us as motion design, AI, and all these other new tech starts to emerge. We feel like we're at the forefront of a lot of that creative work that's happening. So super excited to be here, Simon, and super excited to jump into everything.
Well, thanks very much indeed for the intro, Mack, and for giving people a little bit of insight into you and into Dash. And you was talking there about being a problem solver. And am I right in saying that when you started Dash, was that 2014, 2015, something like that?
2015, right?
Um, you were solving a problem that you had yourself, right? So you decided that you would take the plunge and set up your own company because prior to that you were employed. Am I right in saying that?
Correct. Yeah, full time in an agency prior to it.
Yeah. And in terms of high end animation, that term that you've used, and motion design studio, can we just unpack that a little bit? Because people who are listening to this, if they're in a creative field, they probably get inundated on a monthly basis with companies that are making video, trying to sell their services. Tell us a little bit about the uniqueness of this high end animation and this motion design. What's the secret sauce with you and Dash, Mac?
Oh yeah, it in most simplest terms, it's authenticity. I think the consumer is a smart consumer. The buyer is a smart person. They can tell when something was not geared directly towards them, or there wasn't a whole lot of effort put into it, or they feel like this brand is unrelatable to them. This day and age, we are all inundated with content everywhere on our phones, on TV, and we are constantly being distracted by different things. So, how do you get someone to pay attention? And the reality is, you have to connect with them on a deeper level. It has to be a product or a service that they want and need and are interested in. And it has to be presented in an interesting way where it's like, look, we can really solve a problem for you with this product or service. And that doesn't happen with just making the cheapest content you can make. It really takes a team of people doing background research on both our clients that we work with and the customers that they're trying to target, understanding that demographic at a really foundational level to create something that's both beautiful with the work that we do, and that's the high end side of it, but also connecting on a data driven aspect, which is the kind of marketing side of what we do. So that's really where the high end aspect comes in. And I speak a lot towards creativity and community, from a perspective of a client who might be hiring us. Why would they care about the community piece of what we do? We have invested in internships. We've done BIPOC and POC mentorship programs. We even throw an animation and motion design festival called the Dash Bash biennially. And we do this all because we believe in giving back to the community so that when we need to scale a creative firm that's 12 full-time staff, but we need to handle 20 videos for a corporate entity over 6 months, that's a lot. And we depend on the creative community to help support us because we've supported them. And so it's enabled us to scale without losing the fidelity of the work that we need to create so that we can be the big agency that clients need us to be, or we can be the small local boutique shop that folks want us to be as well for one or two single videos. So it's put us in this really great position of top tier quality with that personality and boutique experience that folks really want from, they get from the baker or the local pub around the corner.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And talking about community, I'm thinking as you're talking about a lot of brands, whether they're a small, a medium, or a global company. As a brand, as an organization, we're all trying to connect with our community, whether they be prospects, customers, etc. So, in terms of using creative endeavors to connect with the community that you're trying to reach, wherever they are in the world, you really dive into that creative side, don't you? And that's where this high end comes into. So, are there any sort of examples about how you go about that? Now, whether it's a client example you can give us, or maybe a little bit about the methodology that you apply and the workflow that you apply, because everybody wants to connect their brand with their community, but a lot of people just end up pushing out more and more content and hoping something connects.
This is such a great question, Simon. I'll give you a little bit of philosophy here because I think marketing has changed so much, digital marketing and content marketing, especially what I'm speaking towards here over the years. And we're kind of in this new paradigm. Traditionally, you would have a website. It's your first introduction to your brand. It's like your living room of your house. You get it nice set up. It's the same no matter who's coming to see your brand. They're meeting you for the first time in the living room at your house. But the reality is, we have four generations in the workforce right now. We have the baby boomer generation, Gen X, we've got millennials, and Gen Z. These are all buyers at this point, and they all do it differently. So if you're creating content for a boomer generation, it might need to be more lead magnets. It might need to be more white papers or PDFs or hard copies or even potentially snail mail. Whereas Gen X and millennials, now you're talking about blogs, Google searches, Reddit searches, watching YouTube videos. And then you have this newer generation of Gen Z who is exclusively taking in content from referrals of friends, influencers, in-app searches, right? Searching within TikTok and Instagram. And so if you're a company and you have the video and you say, I'm going to take this video and I'm just going to put that same video across all these channels, it's not going to perform the same on each one of those and it's going to fall flat. The reality is, and what is being asked of marketers today and creatives today, is to come up with bespoke solutions for each of those channels. So you really have to have this digital shelf, is what I'm calling it. And so it's this idea that you have the first introduction to your brand could be in any one of these channels, and you need to make sure that content is tailored and catered towards that channel. And that's really where we specialize in understanding the strategy behind what are we trying to do, what is the content that we need to make that best fits those channels, and what is the optimization to drive that action. And that goes back to that high end idea. It's not just a one-stop solution for everybody. It's really tailored for each of our clients' needs.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, Mac. And I'm what you were saying there, I'm thinking about Gary Vaynerchuk and VaynerMedia, who's a big proponent of what you're saying, because the media and the channel are so important depending on who am I trying to talk to, which is kind of what you're saying there. Now, Mac and the team at Dash, are you saying for each one of those, if your audience is made up of a mix of those type of communities, types of people, types of audience, maybe age range, of course, culture and geography play into that. But are you saying, look, we're going to need to adapt the content to fit each one of those? Do you find yourselves having to talk to your clients about, do you know what, you're going to need to be on TikTok to reach that audience, or actually reels are going to work for you just fine, or oh, you're okay, you can put this out on LinkedIn? Like, how does that work in your world, Mac?
Yeah, no, 100%. Usually in our discovery phase, the way that we break down our process, it's discovery, ideation, messaging, pre-production, production, and then our final file delivery. So we have a simplified 6-step process, regardless of the medium of choice and what we're pursuing. In general, it follows those 6 steps. So discovery is really trying to understand from the client, again, this goes back to the partnership. I mean, they are the subject matter expert in the space. We are the subject matter expert in the creative. So let's find how we can work together. We really try to understand what channels they have that have been successful historically, what content they've put out that has been successful historically, who is their demographic. Because again, if you're targeting someone who's maybe a real estate broker in their 50s, TikTok maybe might not be the right place for it potentially. So you try to understand the demographic and their goal. From there, we can make suggestions, either what we think would work best for the channel that you have, or encourage you to maybe pursue a different channel given the audience that you're going after. So all that sort of happens in discovery. From there, we get into ideation. What do we think is the best fit for the company we're working with? The best style, the best medium, the best type of video. Is it a short form, 15-second spot, or is it something that's more long form and more narrative driven? All these pieces kind of bubble up to the top as we're navigating that. Messaging comes into the cadence. How are we speaking towards the audience? Is it more of a thought leadership type piece, kind of buttoned up, almost like you're at a podium? Or is it conversational? We're having a chat over coffee and it feels like you're talking to your best friend. Pre-production are all the pieces that go into the final product. And for us, it's all about building that really strong foundation to ensure that there's no surprises. Everyone knows how the video is unfolding. So these could be things like style frames, still images that convey the overall look and feel of where we're heading, storyboards that are rough sketches that get paired with the script we develop so the client has an idea of how things are unfolding, or even animatics that take those storyboards, pair it with a rough audio track so now you can get the timing of how all these pieces are unfolding. These all lead up to production, where we then lean into what we do best, which is either the live action shoots or we get into animation, and then final files. And this is where it goes back to the content shelf. Is final files is strategically what are the types of deliverables that you need to place in these different areas. It almost becomes a digital toolkit. So we might have one core video that lives on YouTube that might be for the folks who are doing Google searches, and for maybe millennials and Gen X, we might do cut downs that could live on different social platforms. So these are more for the in-app searches. Maybe we recommend a blog post based off that core video that kind of stills stuff down, or a lead magnet that could be for more of an older generation. So again, it's one core deliverable, but we really think of everything we do as almost a mini campaign, given the toolkit that we're delivering to our clients.
Yeah, thanks for expanding on that. And I know when I think it was yourself and Corey started the business, you were very keen to make sure that the work that you did really spoke to quality.
Mm,
And of course, that's mixed in with the sort of creative endeavors. And one of the things that I love that you talk about at Dash is that, look, if you're looking just to create a video or check the
mm,
box, you're probably not the people for that requirement. And it's clear listening to you in terms of that power of creativity, that collaboration, that thought process about how you can help your clients get not just interested in what's being produced, but excited about the possibilities of how they can connect their brand to their
100%.
community. So that's great. And I want to ask you a connected question, if I can, Mac, which is, we're all living in this post-pandemic world. We've got AI, the world's getting faster and faster, the news cycle's crazy. Um, how do you actually work at Dash? Are you like the Apple campus where everybody's got to come to the office because we're more creative when we're together? Are you fully remote? What are your thoughts on the future of work when it comes to the type of creative endeavors that you're doing at Dash? Where are you on that, Mac?
Oh, that's a really great question. I think we've had to evolve as the times have changed. We used to be exclusively in office in my hometown here in Raleigh, North Carolina. But since the pandemic, we've decentralized and we actually operate now in 6 different states. And so there's only a handful of us that are in North Carolina, and the rest are dispersed across the East Coast. And I think what that's required is more purpose and intention when it comes to culture, HR, and building systems that are really tying us together, even though we are remote. And it's hard. We still haven't not figured it all out. But I will say we do a really good job of creating events within the company that aren't mandatory, but that everyone is participatory in, that really helps build that culture. Things like Tuesday Inspiration, where we rotate around and staff can share things that are important to them. We do monthly recaps of the work that we've done, where art directors and creative directors walk through the projects we've been doing. We do learning lessons sometimes on Fridays where we learn a new trick or a technique. And we do a stand up every day at 9 a.m., albeit brief. It's usually only about 15 minutes, but it grounds us with an opportunity to see one another and connect with one another. So I will say it does pose a challenge, I think, collectively for the world as we try to foster culture within a creative space that's so about collaboration and where being grounded helps so much. I don't think it's lost. I think it's just changing. And so we're leaning into that and doing everything we can to make it feel as centralized as possible, even though we're all in the nooks and crannies around the world.
Oh, that's great. It's always fascinating to hear how people have adapted their business model, what's working, what's not. I know you guys a little while back looked at a 4-day work week as well, and
Mhm.
it's kind of good to try things, figure out what's working for you. And on that note, what's working for you and what are you thinking about? I'd like to ask you a little bit about the next 6 to 12 months. How does that look for Dash? What are you thinking about? What are you hoping to achieve? What's on the horizon?
This is going to be such relatable content. I feel or comment. I feel like to all creatives and anyone in the marketing space, because it's a mixture of both. I think there's a lot of change happening. Companies are doing two things. One, everyone feels like they're trying to incorporate AI to some degree into their companies for more efficiency. And then the latter part with efficiency has resulted, I think, in lower marketing budgets and lower creative budgets. And so what that's put pressure on is marketers do more with less. What that's put pressure on with creative is to create more with less. And so a lot of our focus has been around simplifying complexity and really honing in on this idea of how can we use some of the new tech that's coming out to do more. We we speak a lot in this episode towards the content shelf and having different creative that can live in different places. How can some of that be systemized? So we're thinking about ways, for example, where we might design one video in a very modular way that can now be repurposed into 6 other verticals where we're changing the copy or changing out the visuals with ease. It could be creating templates for internal teams to be able to act more nimble like a studio because we've set them up for success with internal things to work on. And even for ourselves, it's exploring new technology in the lens of process. I'm still a adamant believer that good creative still takes time and energy. There's no quick, easy button to press that's going to solve your problems when it comes to bespoke creative. But getting there and using some of these new tools as brainstorming devices, charrettes and some of these things to help get us there quicker, I think that is very much in the cards and something that we're going to be looking into extensively over the next 6 months.
Yeah, thanks, Mac. And I don't want to go down the AI rabbit hole, but um, in terms of AI, I've been often talking to people quite recently about this whole narrative seems to have shifted from it's taking all the jobs, it's reducing all the budgets to actually it's going to take a smart human here to be able to use these tools effectively to get cut through, to connect with communities, and to actually make a difference. And that seems to be what you're saying in terms of using the tools now to actually really increase the output. The narrative seems to have shifted a little bit. Would you agree with that, Mac? Or
I would say this. I think marketers and creatives are really good at navigating ambiguity. They're problem solvers, right? That's what we're doing at a baseline level. And so AI to me is just a tool. The human problem solving side and the nuance that comes with that is still at the forefront. And so I'm perpetually an optimist. I think you kind of have to be an optimist in the advertising industry because things change. There's last minute asks. It doesn't always go as planned. So you have to be nimble in that regard. You have to be an optimist. But I genuinely believe that, motion design and motion designers who are multidisciplinary creatives who can edit, who can animate, who can design, they are at the forefront of this change, and they're going to be in a great place in the future, as I think we all have to just adapt and try new skill sets and play around with some of this new technology that's coming out.
Yeah, thanks, Mac. I agree. Look, finally, a couple of quick questions for us to wrap up on. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our worldwide audience today? Any sort of final thoughts you'd like to leave us with? And secondly, and really importantly, if people want to reach out, connect with you, get in touch with the team at Dash, where's the best place to send people to, Mac?
Two great questions. The first is something that I think was a pretty life-changing thought for me that has helped me navigate and find success in 10 years of running our agency. And that's this idea that perfection inhibits progress. We get so caught up in making ourselves believe that whatever we put out into the world has to be perfect. And as a result, it delays what we need to be doing, and that's just moving things forward. A quick story for you. This is a few years back. We needed to update our website because it just did not reflect the quality that I knew we were bringing to the table, didn't quite have the nuance I wanted to have. So I told myself, all right, the new year, Q1, January, February, March, I'll launch a new website. Well, I get through Q1, didn't happen. Not a problem. Q2, it's going to happen. I'll work on it. I start tweaking it. It's getting close, but it's not quite there. And I don't launch it. I'm like, all right, Q3, the end of summer. That's a perfect time. Well, end of summer rolls around. The next thing you know, it's fall. And I've delayed putting out this website for 7 to 8 months. So I took a Friday off, Saturday and Sunday. I worked all weekend, and I got this website to about 60% of what I want it to be. I mean, it still was not close to being ready, but I published it on Monday and I put it out there. And what I received with so many accolades and comments from friends and family and clients saying how great the site looked, everything looked amazing. And what it reminded me is, I wasted so much time just sweating over something that I should have just put it out there and then refined. Because there's no reason you can't go back and fix stuff. But as far as keeping momentum going, make a decision. Everyone's going to have a critique of something no matter how perfect you think it is anyway. So put it out there, refine it, keep it moving forward. That's a big key takeaway. And then as far as where folks can reach me, there's two things I'd like to suggest. One is we throw a biennial motion design conference called the Dash Bash that's happening this summer, June 11th through 13th, 2025. It's really an inclusive conference that tries to bring speakers to the stage who typically have not spoken a lot. And most importantly, we try to curate space for creatives to get to chat and to get to know one another, because I think it's a relationship first industry when you're in the service industry of creative. And that's really where the best work comes from. So I encourage anyone who's interested in that to check out the Dash Bash at www.dashbash.net. That's going to be happening this summer. We'd love to have you. And if you're curious to learn more about Dash, check out our website at www.dashstudio.net. And we post a lot on Instagram if you're on there at _NC. But yeah, looking forward to connecting with your audience, Simon.
Well, that sounds like a couple of great places people should go out and check out immediately. And also, thanks for the final thoughts, Mac. Really, really helpful. And that brings me nicely to the end of this episode of the Global Discussion. I want to thank everybody who's been watching or listening to this episode around the world. Of course, I'm going to ask you to follow, like, subscribe to everything that we're doing over here at the Global Discussion. Give us a helping hand. Tell somebody about the show, and also go and check out all the great work that Mac and the team over at Dash are doing. And I hope you'll join me back here for some more discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers just like Mac. But Mac, it's been great to have you on the show. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks so much, Simon. Really enjoyed the conversation.